All right, guys, let's get to this Impact reaction. I got to say, I really liked Impact this week. I thought this Impact was better than the live Impact that they did the week before, which is in line with what happened in San Antonio. I thought one of the taped episodes was better than the live one that they had. This was a pretty I thought this was a pretty good show. Had some good wrestling, good skits, a match that was way better than it had any right being. I'll get into that. But the show kicks off. We get the slow motion intro with Tom Hannafin yelling. And the show opens up with Hannafin and Ray Walt talk on commentary about Moose versus Oba Femi at Roadblock and a title. I don't think it's title versus title. People keep saying that. I think it's for the NXT championship. I don't think it's NXT. It's not the X Division title versus that title's on. Like, it's the NXT championship is on the line in that match. Oba Femi versus Moose. The TNA tag team titles is on the line with Hardys versus Fraxium. And they're doing a title versus title match with Stephanie Vaquer versus Julia. That they're going to combine the titles in that one because Julia's hurt. So Vaquer's, well, spoiler, Vaquer's going to win that one. So sorry to spoil, sorry to drop a spoiler out of nowhere, my bad. But that's what's going to happen there. Starting off on the microphone is Alicia Edwards, says, "Do you want to know something?" JDC takes a turn on the microphone and then Moose takes over. He talks about how he's going to take out Oba Femi. He then aims his anger at Jeff Hardy, who he says got lucky against him twice in the past, and says his luck runs out. Brian Myers then gets a turn on the stick, and he says Oba Femi isn't system material, and turns his focus on the recent TNA debuts of Eddie and Orlando Colon. He says, actually, if you think about it, Eddie and Orlando Colon have lots in common with JDC and Brian Myers. All of them were jobbers in WWE. So there you go. And now they're big stars in TNA. So he says they might be system material than the Clones hits, and the Clones are anti-pop machines. Everybody, Full Sail loves everybody. They don't care about the Clones. And that's, it's sad. Like, Clones are not bad wrestlers, but it's like they're not stars, is what it is. They get on the mic and they remind everyone what the Clone name means. It's their way of life, and there's only a few elite wrestlers who fully understand what that means. The way they say they respect the system, and the system make it clear that everything better is better when you trust the system. And then they wrap it up. So they did a very WWE Raw opening with a interview segment, but of course it's going to play into the main event later tonight. So, and then Gia Miller standing by with TNA Knockouts Tag Team Champion Spitfire. They talk about their concierge stipulation for their match against the Elegance Girls later in the evening. So there you go. Then we're still backstage. It's taking a while to get to the ring. So it takes a while to get to the ring. Leon Slater then confronts the system when they come back from commercial. Things get heated. The Hardys show up and they keep up on their word of having Slater's back. And then the two sides bicker and pull and push, but are ultimately kept apart. And then we get to our first match. Mike Santana comes out, hits the ring. And then as he's in the ring, the theme for, you guessed it, Oro Mensa. Chat. Who is Oro Mensa? I don't know who this is, but Full Sail seemed to know him because he's from NXT. Got a big NXT chant. And I thought this was a good showcase for Santana. And I thought Oro Mensa looked pretty good too. It was a decent map. Mensa tries for a flying crossbody to the floor, but Santana catches him and drops him face first on the hard part of the ring apron before turning him inside out with a mean clothesline. Back in the ring, Santana catches Mensa with a rolling buck 50. So that's where he does his reverse roll into a diamond cutter. He goes for the cover, but Mensa kicks out. Mensa fights back, but ultimately Santana takes over and blasts the NXT superstar with his spin the block finisher for the pinfall victory. After the match, a corny style political smear campaign commercial ad airs. Shows Mustafa Ali and his new crew consisting of the Good Hands, Skylar and Hotch, and Tasha Steeles trashing Santana. So they're starting the rumor that Santana is back drinking again, and they're doing the political ad for it. I thought this was great. Ali's got a good shit-eating grin. He really does. He's a shithead in the best possible way. He's got a very punchable face. And now you really want to see Santana punch him, because now Ali, who missed the entire taping block because he was in Qatar along with Nick Nemeth, Ali is doing a good job keeping his name relevant and keeping the storyline relevant with all the stuff that they recorded. I thought this was very effective, and this is really good heat. Really good. This is the only feud in this company that has any heat. Everything else is just haha bullshit. This one's got heat. They're getting personal. I dig it. Personal issues draw money. And that's what this has. When the show returns, Santana storms the backstage area in search of Ali and his crew. He runs into the great hands and steals as they play dumb. He tells them Santana can do this to his face if he wants to, or Ali can do this to his face if he wants to. He almost says he's going to stick his foot up their ass, but Steele censors him, cuts him off. And then we go back, and Tessa Blanchard's theme hits, and out she comes to a ton of heat from the Full Sail crowd. She sure did have a lot of heat. No She's a Racist chance, and even if they did have it, they would have just edited it out, which is what they did last week. So if when they put that Tessa segment on YouTube, they edited out the She's a Racist stuff and the Ching Chong China stuff from what's her name, from Mackenzie Mitchell. So Tessa Blanchard's theme hits, and Kelsey Heather is what a weird name. Kelsey Heather. Like, obviously that's not a real name. Like, no one's last name is Heather, I don't think. But she's got two first names, so there you go. Blanchard immediately charges across the ring and starts beating up Heather. Fans break out in a deafening Tessa sucks chant, which she fuels by giving reaction to. She hits a vicious suplex into Heather into the turnbuckles in the corner. Masha Slamovich is then shown watching on as Blanchard continues to dominate Heather with ease. She whips her into the corner and charges from the opposing corner, only to halt dead in her tracks at the last second. As Heather cowered, Blanchard blasted her with an open hand slap across the mouth. Blanchard hits a cutter out of nowhere and then wraps her arms up for the buzzsaw in the center of the ring. 1, 2, 3. Blanchard gets the victory. Easy win for Blanchard. I don't know who Kelsey Heather is, but sign her. They need people. That's the theme of the Knockouts division. Keep signing people because we need some bodies. Very clearly we're getting Masha Slamovich versus Tessa at Rebellion. And that should be interesting in fucking liberal Hollywood to see what's going to happen when Tessa comes out. Backstage, Gia Miller asks Masha Slamovich for her thoughts and then gets ambushed by Cora Jade. So there you go. And she stands over and says, I don't know why you're worried about Tessa Blanchard, but I'm the one who's going to take your title at Sacrifice. Says it in her monotone voice with no intensity. God, I cannot wait for Cora Jade to get off Impact. She is terrible. She's almost as bad at these backstage skits as Mercedes Moné. She's that bad. She sucks. But Mercedes Moné is actually a good wrestler. Right. And then Joe Hendry and Elijah, Guitar and All, are shown talking. Hendry says it was fun last week, but he's seen this one before. He says the second he gets comfortable being friendly with Elijah, his guitar is going to be wrapped around his head. Kids, that's what's called foreshadowing. That is exactly what's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen. I sincerely hope that this is not the pay-per-view match for Rebellion, because all those people that paid their hard-earned money are not going to get a good match. But I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. Elijah assures him that's not the case, even though he understands why Henry would be conscious of it. The system confront them with Edward saying for the second time, as annoying as ever, do you want to know something? And they taunt the duo and then walk off. And then Steve Maclin defeats Casey Navaro. This match was made when Casey Navaro dared walk past Steve and talk to him while Steve was on his phone. There's lots of changes in this company happening. Okay. Lots of backstage changes. They need to overhaul the entire creative team. If they hired Mike, the Department of Gilbert Efficiency, day one, I'm wiping out the head of talent relations, Gail Kim, and I'm wiping out the entire creative team. Well, Gail Kim, I'm putting an actual HR professional in that position, and people that know how to hire and recruit talent. And I'd start recruiting young, independent talent to come into the company to fill a lot of the voids that we have on the talent roster to create depth and start building characters. And then I would create a whole new writing staff. And I would put John Muse on that because he was sending me texts at 4 a.m. Detroit time, sending me text messages with idea after idea. This guy's got a million fucking ideas and they're all really good, right? I'd wipe out the whole goddamn thing. Okay. Anyway, so this was a good match though. I do got to say. Maclin, let's see. After bouncing out to the floor ringside, Maclin is hoisted up and dropped face first into the hard part of the ring. I hate that saying. By Francis. As Navaro distracted the referee inside the ring, Eric Young starts to make his way down to get a closer look at the action. Maclin fights back and runs over Navaro. He bangs him upside down in the Tree of Woe. That's the tag and bag of mayhem for all. And then follows it up with his KIA finisher for the pinfall victory. And he looks up at the entrance area and sees Young and the Northern Armory watching on. Okay, so after the match, what we didn't see, because this was taped, is Maclin addressed the crowd and talked about his, like, he was in NXT for like 8 years, man. And he joined WWE NXT like in 2014. So he talked about his time there, compared the wrestling business to the Marine Corps. This is really a homecoming for him. You could tell he was overwhelmed with some emotion there. So I thought that was really cool, man, that he got to do that. So this was a big deal for him coming back to Full Sail. Based on the schedule, they're not coming back to Full Sail for a long time. I hope they do. I think this has been a good crowd for them. I'd like to see them return like 3-4 times a year. But I thought this was a good match, and I think they need to put the belt on Maclin. But clearly, so Ali and Santana has legitimate heat and personal heat. I think they can get there with Eric Young and Steve Maclin. I don't think that this match is happening at Sacrifice, though. They might save it for Rebellion and do something big there. But I guess it could happen at Sacrifice. But I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot more juice to the story that we can get to and make it bigger. It'd be nice if they had a mid-card title that they could fight over, but they just don't. So, we'll see. Backstage, Tessa is shown walking the halls after her first victory on TNA Impact in 5 years, and she notices Lei Ying Lee standing in a doorway. Asks her if she's got a staring problem. What a dumb way to start a feud. After things get heated between the two, Santana Marella walks up and tells Tessa Blanchard she doesn't think Leah's on her level. She'll soon be able to prove it because Sacrifice will be Tessa Blanchard versus Lei Ying Lee. That match should be very interesting, and I'll tell you why. Tessa Blanchard has a reputation for being a bully. Lei Ying Lee has a reputation for being stiff as shit in the ring, which is why she's not in NXT anymore. Because I think she was stiffing people and beating them up in the ring. So this could be interesting. Just like I would like to see if Lei Ying Lee stiffs Tessa, like Tessa's reaction and how she handles it. That could be wild. That could be wild. Like, because you saw in that Jordan Grace match, they were beating the shit out of each other. But I think that was like, they probably had an agreement going into the match. Like, hey, we're going to fucking hit each other. I don't know that these two are going to have this agreement, but I think it's very likely that Lei Ying stiffs the shit out of Tessa and Tessa does not handle it well. So be on the lookout for this match. Okay. Surprise match of the night. I am very hard on the TNA Knockouts tag team division, and I think for good reason. I think I'm right in that this is the worst division in all of pro wrestling. They never have more than 2 teams at a time, and the 2 teams just continue to swap the titles back and forth, swap wins back and forth, and they usually build to their big tag team title match. They like their initial matches. The build is always a series of singles matches. It's the same fucking formula over and over again. And the only reason they have this division is because they want to say they have more women on the show, but they don't give the division any respect, right? They need 8 tag teams at a time, all the time. And they can get there without spending a ton of money. BQ has spelled it out for them, said, look at what Billy Corgan does in the NWA, right? They need 8 tag teams all the time, right? That doesn't mean they need to add 16 more people to the roster, because there could be several tag teams within the roster already whoever is not fighting for a title can for the Knockouts Championship could be featured in a tag team, right? And they can go back and forth. And then they could, of course, they can add the King Bees. They can add, people say Hex. I don't think Hex is very good, but they can add Hex and these other people. But they need 8 tag teams at a time for both the men's and the women's tag team championships. Okay, so that's my knock on the whole division. And I've been tough on Ash and Heather by Elegance because I think the act is tired and played out and way too over the top. And I don't think the matches are very good. Well, they proved me wrong this week because not only were I thought they funny and engaging, and they came out dressed like Minnie Mouse, which got over with the crowd because in Orlando. I thought Spitfire and the Elegance girls had a really damn good match, and I think specifically Danny Luna looked like somebody that could be challenging for a world title. That German suplex from outside the ring, inside the ring, was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. That was intense. So when the show returns from the mid-match commercial break, the two teams trade the lead a few times, and Spitfire picks up the win. So there you go. But they had, I thought this was better than way better than it had any right being. It wasn't a long match. I thought it was really good. And then specifically, there was a German suplex spot with Danny Luna on Heather by Elegance that I thought was fantastic. Okay, now here's where it falls off a cliff. Show heads into a commercial break, and then when the show returns, Ash and Heather by Elegance are shown looking a mess and unhappy backstage. And as they complain about stuff from Spitfire, they carrying for them, stinking. Up comes Spitfire with some more smelly gear for them to haul. This just goes on for a little bit. They did some more backstage skits with, I guess Ash had to take care of one of the dogs or something. The whole thing was stupid. And the way they filmed it was stupid. And so anyway, but the match was good. So there you go. Inside the Impact Zone, the theme hits to bring out the teenage digital media champion, Mance Warner, who comes to the ring accompanied by Steph DeLander. After getting settled inside the squared circle, Sammy Callahan makes his way out as Warner's scheduled opponent. The bell sounds. Callahan gets out of the way as Warner tried to sneak attack, charging him. Warner turns around into a stunner from Callahan. Callahan heads out to the floor, grabs a steel chair, holds it up, and blasts Warner with it right in front of the referee. The referee calls for the bell. Callahan whacks him with it, and the fans chant one more time. But Warner moves, and he smacks the steel ring post with it. And then Warner then runs over Callahan, leaves him laying on the floor. Warner grabs a steel chair, begins wearing out Callahan. As blood trickles from his own eyes, security rushes to the scene to break things up. Callahan ends up knocking a bunch of them over with like bowling pin, but ultimately they keep the two apart. Fans loudly chant, "Let him fight, let him fight." On that note, Santana Marella comes out, and I'm sick of this guy. So when he comes out and you guys are at the show, stop cheering for him because he's getting the biggest pops. So they're going to keep doing this shit. But anyway, he books him in a street fight at Sacrifice 2025. I thought there was just way too much Santino on this show. But I guess that was an effective way to get to Sacrifice. So Mance and Callahan they'll have a good match. I beat garbage, cookie sheets, and they'll have some barbed wire and thumbtacks and all that stuff. But I think they'll have a good. It'll get over. Those guys know how to work each other. These guys have been working each other in every territory around the country for fucking 5 years now. So they know what they're doing. And I think Mance Warner could be a star in this company. I think he's going to get over. They got to let him do more character work, and they did let him cut a little bit of a promo, I think, last week, but they got to let him do some more stuff. He's good. All right. Next match is Frankie Kazarian. I thought this was a good match too. I thought, this might have been one of the ones that had a wonky finish though. Austin looks for a trademark spot, but sees Tyson and Tyreek right when he would be landing. He walks over, passes through the ropes, brings Kazarian closer to the ring. He hops on the ring apron, blasts Kazarian with a big kick, rolls him back in the ring. But when he goes to re-enter the ring himself, he stops and turns around to jog back and forth to Tyson and Tyreek. When he turns around, Kazarian tried to capitalize on the distraction, but Austin outsmarted him. Unfortunately, it wasn't the only distraction, as Lee stood up from the commentary desk and jawed at Austin to get his attention, this time resulting in Kazarian catching Austin off guard with his finisher for the pinfall victory. So, yeah, it was good, but it was just like, the whole match was about the interferences and the distractions because they're just trying to get to the sacrifice match, the trios match at Sacrifice. So, once the match wraps up, Tyson and Tyreek hit the ring along with Lee and begin attacking Austin in 3-on-1 fashion. The Rascals theme hits, and Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel sprint down to the ring with steel chairs in their hands to make the save and run off the heel NXT trio. The show heads into another commercial break from there. Okay. And then the Elegance Girls they're working as Spitfire's personal concierge. So this is what I was talking about. It's a cinematic style segment. Ash and Heather are shown being tortured with tedious tasks from the Knockouts tag champions, including taking care of the dogs. At one point, they were taking care of a little dog, but that happened to be, and they're like yelling at it. And then that was SDL's dog. And then they ended up giving her a bigger dog to take care of. I don't know. Some people like this stuff, but I thought the camera cuts were weird and the way they tried to film it just didn't work for me. So, and I just didn't think it was all that funny. But main event time, and chat, I'm going to get to you. I see the chat blowing up, so I'm actually going to get to you guys. Main event time. The System defeated Oba Femi and the Hardys. Yes, Oba Femi lost. So we're going to be 1-1. He didn't get pinned though. So I thought Oba Femi was awesome in this match, by the way. He is so great. WWE is doing a good job of recruiting talent. And I know that that's controversial to say, but they're doing a great job. I see the guys that they're recruiting versus the guys TNA are recruiting. TNA are recruiting guys that WWE fires. Instead of going like scouring the indies to build these new stars. They did that when Scott and Callis took over, right? That's what they were doing at first because WWE wasn't firing a ton of people. And then since then, they've realized that WWE fires people all the time so they can get people that are like, that already have TV training and then just bring them in at a discounted rate. When they should get back to the indies and start building their own people, right? But I thought this match was really good. It was really fun. The crowd was hot for it the whole time. Let's get past the mid-match commercial break. Okay, so fans loudly chant, Oba's going to kill you, Oba's going to kill you. After the initial exchange, things come unglued, leading to the Hardys hitting the ring and some big multi-man high spots as the show hits in the mid-commercial break. And when it returns, we see the System in what appears to be a comfortable offensive lead with Moose beating down Jeff Hardy and focusing on his knee. Jeff finally makes a much-needed tag to Matt, who hits the ring with a ton of energy, making the fired up offensive comeback for his team. Oba and Moose end up in the ring together, with Moose blasting Oba with a big kick to the face. Oba rocked way back. Alistair way back. Oh, like Alistair Overeem getting punched by Francis Ngannou style. So whoever wrote this is a big MMA fan, but I remember that. But ultimately, he stands back upright without ever going down. The crowd went berserk for that. Femi hits a big sidewalk slam, but after some more interference, Moose ends up hitting the spear for the pinfall victory, not on Oba Femi, though. I believe on Matt. After the match, the System beat down the babyfaces along with the Clones until Joe Hendry and Elijah run out to make the save. Santana Marella comes out again and announces Moose versus Jeff Hardy in a ladder match. I don't know what they did, how they like logically. I understand why they're doing it, but like logically in the context of the storyline, how they leapt to the ladder match, considering Moose and Jeff have not had a singles match. Jeff has pinned Moose in a couple of tag matches, but they have not had a singles match. So instead of having their first singles match, they just jump straight to a ladder match. So is what it is. So yeah, Moose versus Hardy in a ladder match, as well as the System versus the Clones and Joe Hendry versus Joe Hendry, Matt Hardy, and three partners of their choosing for TNA Sacrifice. I know it's Hendry, Hardy, Elijah, and then I think at the tapings they revealed Leon Slater, and then the fifth partner, we all know it's going to be Nick Nemeth. That has not been spoiled. No one's actually said that, but we just happen to know that it's going to be Nick Nemeth because they've been teasing that Nemeth is returning because he missed the tapings. All right, chat. Let's get to you, and then we're going to call it a day. I didn't have much to talk about, but I talked a long time. So here we go. Josh, the only person that cares about the Colognes is BQ. Yeah, that's for fucking sure. I asked Oro who Oro Mensa is, and IO Productions says he's part of the Metaphor group. I don't know who that is either. So, yeah. Um, okay, some might have a problem with how this storyline, talking about the Santino Ali storyline goes, but I think that's the point, and Santana is also okay with it. I've been in AA meetings for 10 years, and I'm okay with it. Actually, I've been in AA meetings for 12 years. I just happen to have been sober for 10 because it took me a while to figure it out. But I happen to be okay with it too. Okay. Billy says Tessa's buzzsaw is so quick, it's devastating. She has that and her jumping code breaker, so just so intense. Tessa Blanchard is one of the best in the world. She's so good. I wish she wasn't such a pain in the ass, because she could be a WrestleMania main eventer too if she didn't have those issues. It's so obvious that she's in a league of her own, which is why they got to beef up the division. Yeah, she's already the best in the division the moment she returned. Masha's right there with her. I think Tessa's a step above, and when we see them two in the ring together, we're going to see that there's levels to this game, and I think Tessa's a level above Masha too. Let's see. Billy says, I think it's going to be Hendry versus Elijah at Rebellion. Definitely not Nemeth for the third straight pay-per-view. I hope it's not going to be Nemeth for the third straight pay-per-view. But Io doesn't think it is. They just signed Elias, and he's part of the big pay-per-view plans. Io, who signed in January last year, was their big signing. And what did he do at Rebellion last year? Nick Nemeth signed in January, and he got a title shot in April. Let's not pretend like they don't do this stuff, right? Lucky Charm. When Tessa wins the title, do you see it her holding it until TNA gets their next big knockout signing, which may be a while at this rate? Yeah, I think so. Io says AEW has Will Washington on creative. TNA can do the same with John Muse. Don't ever compare Will Washington to John Muse. John Muse has been writing storylines for 30 years, was booking on the indies for a long time, and was once hired by WCW to come in and book the creative division or the cruiserweight division until WCW went out of business. John Muse is like levels above Will Washington. Let's see. WWE partnered with Hire Heroes USA. That's how they got Maclin and Montez Ford and a few others. I did not realize that Montez Ford was in the military. Thank you for telling me that. I did not know that. That's cool. All right. If they decide to give Maclin the belt, they'll turn him heel to beat Santana probably next year. I think the world title is already spoken for. I think that it's going to be Joe Hendry. And then once Joe Hendry is ready to ride off into the sunset, they'll transition to a heel at that point. And then they'll transition over to Mike Santana. So I think Santana is like the long-term champion for this company, though. Let's see. The singer who did Tessa's new theme will perform. Is that at Sacrifice? Good luck with the booze while singing. Okay. LOL. I don't know. I didn't hear that. So send Spitfire to NXT. Yeah, I think they would do good in NXT. I tune out when it's Spitfire versus Elegance, so I fast forward through it. Never want to see these teams wrestle again. I know they work hard and it's not their fault, but it's just bad creative. Yeah, they got no teams, they got no storylines. They got a storyline, but they got no teams. Santino got a pop in NXT. Yeah, it's crazy. Santino's a pop machine. Io says, I think the matches on Sacrifice will deliver. Io, when's the last time that TNA had an event that you weren't looking forward to? My man loves TNA. Okay, Santino's actually over, and you think that limiting his appearance on TV will help preserve his longevity, but then again, it's TNA creative. Yeah, they're using Santino as a crutch. Okay. And then Io says, fair point, Mike, with Nick. Yes, thank you, sir. Josh says, no, Ash was the big signing last year. Yeah, and they waited for Ash to get her title shot until Slammiversary. Will Washington is just Denise Salcedo's friend. No, Will Washington was on a podcast, not with Denise, but on I mean, he might have been on Denise's podcast, but Swerve is his cousin. Okay, so that's the connection. And I'm not shitting on Will Washington. I don't know what he brings to the table. I don't know if he's good or bad at his job or not. I don't know anything. I have no idea. So could be he could be great at his job. I'm just saying, don't compare him to Muse. Muse has been around a long time doing this at a high level. Okay. All right. All right, guys. Let's see. Josh says, yeah, I've seen she's singing at Sacrifice too. Okay. So I guess whoever does Tessa Blanchard's theme song is singing a Sacrifice. So there you go. All right, guys. Oh, IO. Okay. That's it. Last one. Good question. So IO, the last event that he was not looking forward to was maybe Emergence. IO, I'm going to go through your tweets around Emergence time last year and see what you were saying about it. Just kidding. I'm not going to bust your balls. All right, guys. That's going to do it for me this week. I got an hour and 23 minutes out of like almost nothing. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being Patreon subscribers. That's going to do it for me this week. And until next time, mahalo.